friends, let's talk about 10 overlooked supplements that your immune system quietly depends on, but most people ignore. Now, I'm using the term supplements very loosely, where it can represent a specific capsule of zinc to whole foods. And most influencers, they won't tell you what I'm going to share because they don't have the experience I have. And you'll be surprised how easy it will be to incorporate many common foods that I will show throughout this video that have these supplements in them to help you optimize your immune system. Now, it's super important to learn how to talk to your immunity because the consequences don't feel so good. Did you ever get so sick that it took you months to recover and you wondered what you could have taken to make you feel better faster? That was me over 30 years ago. And my routine common cold turned into 3 months of lung inflammation, brain fog, crushing fatigue. And no one could explain my immune system wouldn't bounce back. That was the beginning of actually more immune issues to come. And unfortunately, at the time, I was young, naive, inexperienced, and I simply didn't eat well living on a student budget. I wasn't eating junk, not all the time, but I also wasn't eating the right nutrients to properly support my immunity. Now, I never put 2 and 2 together. Now, the first ingredient is called N-acetylcysteine, or NAC. If you understand NAC, then you will understand the secret code to immunity, glutathione. And if you have enough glutathione, all your cells are powered and protected from the stressors of life. But you can make plenty of stressors on your own. That's called oxidative stress. And without glutathione, you would not be able to live even one day because all that oxidative stress would overwhelm your body and would take all your cells out and your organs. Now, the fact is, we all make oxidative stress. That's a normal part of metabolism. And this is a metabolic process that will stress your body by design. And in fact, immune cells deliberately create oxidative stress called free radicals to destroy the enemy, the pathogens. But when you have too many free radicals, you actually start destroying self. So your body is beautifully designed so that whenever you eat calories, they get converted not only to energy molecules, but to free radicals. Isn't that incredible? The problem is collecting free radicals, when you overdo it, it can destroy your own cells because they're so toxic, unless your body has enough glutathione. Now, this is happening to each and every one of our cells. It's like trash in your home. A little bit of trash you can tolerate. If it starts to accumulate, you can imagine that you can overwhelm your home and it becomes unlivable one day. And unfortunately, just about everything in life, from air pollution to the foods that you eat, causes free radicals and oxidative stress. And unfortunately, most people can't make enough glutathione fast enough to counteract all these stressors. And that's why NAC is so good for your immune system because it supplies the raw materials for your body to make more glutathione, your body's master antioxidant. And NAC literally supplies cysteine, an amino acid that's a bottleneck for glutathione production. Now, when cysteine runs low, glutathione collapses, inflammation stays high, and recovery just stalls. And this is why stress, sleep deprivation, toxins, infections, and poor diet, they all weaken your immunity through this same pathway, depleting glutathione. Now, oftentimes we only think about germs when we think about things that challenge our bodies. We forget about the chemicals that we're exposed to, like painkillers. Now, did you know that the #1 reason for liver transplantation in the US is from a painkiller sold over the counter called acetaminophen? Now, I wouldn't be surprised if it's in your cupboard and in your cold medicines. And if we can get enough NAC in your system before your liver gets to the point of no return, then we can potentially save your life. Now, nobody needs to take painkillers. They're not going to add to your longevity or health benefit. And they're actually known to shorten longevity and health when it's overdosed. And in the right form, N-acetylcysteine or NAC, it can also improve mucus quality in the lungs, making mucus easier to clear. People who take NAC on a regular basis during the winter months actually have less common colds. And when I read that study, well, that sounded pretty good to me. And the reality is these common colds, they are common all year round. It's not just in the winter. And the reason why people feel bad is because of their own immune system. Oftentimes it's simply overstimulated. And many times it's a germ that triggers it, which you can catch pretty easily when you're around people, especially when you're flying in a tin can known as an airplane, right? So the best time to catch something in an airplane is actually at takeoff and at landing when they've turned off the air circulation. Hopefully they've changed those policies. Now, this brings us to our next favorite superfood, elderberry. That was actually referred to in Harry Potter. Potter. Did you know that Dumbledore's wand was supposedly made out of the elderberry tree? Now, you see that purple color? Those are anthocyanins, which enhance the function of your body's immune system, specifically a cytokine called interferon that is produced by your body to prevent germs from attaching to your cells. However, it also causes you to feel bad. Ever heard timing matters? This is especially true with interferon. A fast, clean interferon peak response can turn a major problem into a minor one. A delayed response, well, then that can allow germs to spread and give you prolonged symptoms. And life is all about communication. And elderberry communicates with your immunity to front load the effort so you're not struggling longer than you have to. And when I read papers about this, I was gung-ho with getting some myself. However, if your friend offers you some elderberry juice, I would be a little suspicious and cautious about drinking that. Because if you don't know how they picked and if they properly processed the elderberry, you can get cyanide poisoning, just like those people did in California. Remember, just because something is all natural, folks, it doesn't mean it's okay to eat. Cyanide is all natural and is found in many plants, and it's basically a deterrent against pests. And no one can argue if you're trying to eat it, you're considered a pest. And the thing about cyanide is that it's dose dependent. So in small amounts, it just discourages feeding because it's bitter and can cause immediate discomfort. In large amounts, it can frankly be fatal. Speaking of fatalities, have you ever heard of the caterpillar fungus, cordyceps? That's number 3. Now, fungus is all amongst us. It's in the air, it's in the soil, it's in your fridge. That's probably called mushrooms. And they're really an important part of our ecosystem, as well as our nutrition. Fungi clean the earth and helps us to recycle all the crap we make. However, they're not all edible. And when you find an edible one, that may actually be the secret to your immune system. Cordyceps is one of those edible mushrooms. And notice how you see fungus growing everywhere. They flourish under certain weather conditions and certain dirt conditions. And cordyceps is actually more special than normal fungi. And usually fungi, we think of it as an opportunistic organism. It thrives in moist places like your bathroom or in forests, right, near trees. And in the wild, cordyceps is considered to be a parasitic fungus. And its preferred host is the insect. Whether it's a caterpillar or an ant, it really depends on the species. Heard of the show The Last of Us? That was about a fungal outbreak that turns humans into zombies, right? Because they were infected with fungi. Cordyceps actually has the power to do that in insects. Here's what happens. So a cordyceps spore lands on an insect, a caterpillar, and after it infects the caterpillar, cordyceps begins to take over its body and behavior. It's so subtle that the organism doesn't know it. So then eventually it starts to eat the internal stuff of the caterpillar and it takes over the metabolism and nervous system. And one of the earliest changes is behavior. The caterpillar buries itself deep in the soil. This isn't accidental. The fungus benefits from a cold, stable, low oxygen environment in which it slowly decomposes the host so that their fungi can grow. And the infected caterpillar instinctively digs several centimeters into the ground and then it stops feeding. So when it gets buried, this whole process can last several months. It really depends on the temperature and altitude. And during this time, believe it or not, the caterpillar is still alive, but its internal organs are progressively being replaced by fungal tissue. So the fungus carefully consumes the energy stores, the fat and the proteins, while it preserves the external structure of the caterpillar, essentially turning the caterpillar into a protective shell packed with nutrients. And eventually, the caterpillar dies underground and becomes mummified. However, on the inside, the fungi is still alive, and only after a certain period does it go into its final phase, where it pops through the head of the caterpillar in the spring, and it grows this dark, club-like fruiting body straight through. And the reason why it does that is because it's time to release its babies out into the soil. So this entire process, from infection to the stalk blooming, it can take about 6 months to a year. Can you believe that? And cordyceps was first documented as traditional Tibetan and Chinese medicine. This was over 1,000 years ago. So Tibetan herders, they noticed that their yaks grazing in high altitude regions where cordyceps was prevalent became unusually strong and energetic. And so this observation led them to trying it themselves. And they realized it helped them with their fatigue, respiratory weakness, and recovery. And it latered into the Chinese medical texts as a tonic for lung and kidney energy. To survive the fungi host, it had to figure out how to optimize ATP production, oxygen utilization, and mitochondrial efficiency under low resource conditions. So cordyceps produces compounds, most notably cordycepin and adenosine analogs that influence cellular energy pathways. And in mammals, these compounds appear to improve how efficiently cells use oxygen and generate ATP. It doesn't force it through energy like stimulants do. And that distinction absolutely matters because cordyceps doesn't act like caffeine. It doesn't push your nervous system to the brink. It actually supports your machinery, your equipment to produce energy at a level in which you feel good. And another reason cordyceps is linked to endurance is its effect on oxygen handling. Traditional observations noted improved breathing, stamina, and recovery, especially at high altitude. So modern research suggests that cordyceps can enhance oxygen uptake and mitochondrial respiration, particularly in lung and muscle tissue. Immune cells are especially sensitive to cordyceps because activated immune responses dramatically increase oxygen and glucose demand. When your energy supply is limited, your immune response becomes inefficient and inflammatory. And cordyceps helps to prevent that bottleneck. And what makes cordyceps unique is that it supports energy without overstimulating the body. It doesn't raise your heart rate. It doesn't spike cortisol. It doesn't give you this crash later like caffeine. And instead, it improves your baseline metabolism, its efficiency, and how well cells convert the fuel into usable energy. And that's why it's often associated with sustained stamina, immune resilience, and recovery rather than short-term performance gains. In modern times, Chinese Olympians attribute their successful performance edge to cordyceps. It's a pretty popular traditional Chinese remedy that the price of wild cordyceps can potentially reach $50,000 per kilogram, more expensive than gold. And this is because wild cordyceps is so rare and costly. But you can get a benefit from a lab-known variant called Cordyceps militaris at a smaller budget. And speaking of budgets, every week I budget for grapes, especially grapes with seeds. Now, grape seeds contains proanthocyanidins, which stabilize cell membranes to reduce inflammation and protect blood vessels. Now, immune cells have to travel through circulation, exit vessels, and migrate into tissue. Oxidative damage to the system will slow your immune response and it prolongs inflammation. Grapeseed compounds also interfere with germ adhesion, making it harder for them to invade human cells. The problem is grapes often don't come with seeds these days. Bummer. That's why I put it in my immune supplement. And fruit in general is so healthy because they contain a bunch of different nutrients that support your immune system, including one compound called quercetin, which is one of the most underestimated immune regulators. It reduces excess histamine release, which can worsen inflammation and congestion. And how many people struggle with histamine? It's a lot. That's why they sell antihistamines. And I needed antihistamines in college because I didn't eat well. But the solution to help me feel better in the long term, wasn't going to be an antihistamine. The problem is all these medicines, they have side effects, and we may not discover the side effects until decades later. And now we know diphenhydramine increases the risk of dementia. That's an antihistamine, folks. Check your medicine cabinet.
Hi, friends. I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
I was recently talking to my friend who says she's weird about medication. She had a cold and she was embarrassed because she didn't want to take medications. And I think it's because she knows I'm a physician. Hey, I don't trust medications either. I know every time I prescribe medication, there may be a side effect. We are literally messing with the human biology. Sometimes it works out and we get a life to feel better and save. And sometimes it doesn't. But taking something as a short-term bridge like a medicine is probably going to be okay, which is very different than taking something for a life. And when there's another option safer, like I would rather do that, wouldn't you? And that's why God put all these different nutrients in our foods so that it could talk to our immune system. Quercetin literally inhibits many germs from replicating. It also acts as a zinc ionophore, helping zinc enter cells where it can block RNA replication. Many sneaky germs like the flu are RNA germs. And if you're taking zinc, just know that zinc without a transporter Well, that's pretty limited. And quercetin can solve that problem. It also prevents immune responses from overshooting and dragging on after the threat is gone. And if you're eating whole plants, you're most likely getting some quercetin because it is extremely widespread in the plant kingdom. It's been identified in hundreds of plant species across fruits, vegetables, herbs, seeds, and it's especially concentrated in plants exposed to high sunlight or stress. Quercetin is one of the most common flavonols plants use for UV protection, plant defense, and oxidative stress, which is why humans encounter it so often when we eat whole natural foods. Ever eat capers? Capers are one of the richest common foods for quercetin by far. It contains several hundred milligrams, mostly in glycosylated forms. Now, my family loves onions. We eat that every day, especially red and yellow onions. But you don't want to peel the outer layers too much because quercetin is concentrated in the outer layers. Shallots and scallions also have a lot of quercetin. Endive, radicchio, bitter leafy vegetables, they also contain lots of quercetin. I think one of the most popular fruits in America is the apple. Remember, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Yeah, maybe because it's full of quercetin. But if you don't like apples, go for berries, such as cranberries, lignum berries, blueberries, and elderberries. Cherries and grapes, they too have quercetin. It's really pretty easy to get. Just look for darker colors. The darker the color, the more quercetin it has. And even oranges have quercetin. There's more in the peel than the flesh. And if you're into nuts, like peanuts, which is really not a nut, the whole point is it also has quercetin. Have you seen how cheap peanuts are? But guess what? Most of the quercetin in peanuts are found in that red skin, that papery, thin red skin, not in the nut itself. So when you're eating peanuts that are blanched with the skins removed, well, most of that quercetin and polyphenols, they went out with it too. However, there is another powerful ingredient in peanuts that most people are unaware of, polymethylethanolamide, which addresses the most ignored phase of immunity, shutting it off. A healthy immune response must end. And when it doesn't, you have chronic low-grade inflammation that drains resources, that increases vulnerability to future illnesses. Now, PEA activates PPAR alpha and modulates mast cells and microglia. This helps the immune system to return to a baseline. This is critical for people who feel inflamed, sensitive, or neurologically stuck after being stressed out. Because if your immune system can't reset, you don't recover. PA is an endogenous fatty acid amide in which your body already makes in response to injury, infection, and cellular stress. And another important aspect of PA is its role in neural immune regulation. It's not just your immune system that makes you feel bad and takes you out of whack when you get a cold. Fatigue, brain fog, head pain, these are all neurological symptoms. And guess what? PA can help resolve those feelings faster. There's also evidence that PA enhances the body's endocannabinoid system, even though it does not directly bind to endocannabinoid receptors. But when you activate the system right, it contributes to immune balance, stress resilience, and inflammation solutions. We aren't the only species dealing with inflammation. Ever seen salmon spawning? Ever wonder how they have the energy to swim upstream against the current? So unlike other fish, salmon is a unique pink color. You know where that's from? Astaxanthin, one of the most powerful antioxidants that protect immune cells, specifically the mitochondrial membrane of your cells. And unlike some antioxidants that blunt immune signaling, astaxanthin stabilizes the membrane and preserves mitochondrial function without blocking necessary immune activities. And this supports antibody production, immune cell survival, and tissue repair, especially in high-stress organs like the lung and the nervous system. Resilient mitochondria mean resilient immunity. And you know, the salmon pink color, that means that it has strong antioxidants. And that's why pomegranates are also good because of that bright red color. Those are polyphenols that strengthen the gut barrier, reduce oxidative stress, and feed the microbes that produce immune regulating metabolites. A leaky, inflamed gut will constantly trigger the immune system, which leaves fewer natural resources to face other threats. And pomegranate supports immune tolerance and defense all at the same time. There's really just a bunch of stuff in the natural world that are so helpful for our immune system that people just don't realize. It was created for us to be food for us to eat, like bromelain found in pineapple. Did you know that this compound is used by some surgeons to speed up wound healing? It's been used like that for decades. Bromelain is an enzyme that breaks down inflammatory debris and excess fibrin, which improves circulation and tissue access for immune cells. It also modulates cytokine signaling, reducing prolonged inflammation. So think of bromelain as improving traffic flow, immune cells, can get in, do their job, and get out without much collateral damage. And that's the thing with real food. When you eat real food, you get a ton of side benefits. And ultimately, what your immune cells needs, it's efficiency to generate energy. And that's where getting the right amount of vitamins, vitamin B1 and B2, can make a huge difference in the cell's performance. Vitamin B1 is thiamine. It is essential for glucose and fat metabolism in every cell, especially your immune cell, because it's rapidly churning over. And without it, immune responses are weak and inefficient. And this is actually the first vitamin that goes in the toilet when people go on a fast. And deficiency is simply not compatible with life. My dad was taking vitamin B1 since I could remember, because I'm sure he remembers seeing people sick from a lack of B1 because they did not have a diverse diet. And the Asian diet is heavily carb loaded with rice. The more carbs you eat, the more B1 you need to get. This is because your body can't store vitamin B1. And when you eat more carbs, it's using it up to process your carbs. So then there's nothing left for your immune system. And the second vitamin goes with vitamin B1. That's another energy cascade vitamin, vitamin B2. So many people struggle with wound healing when they don't have enough vitamin B2. And again, this vitamin supports the glucose and fat metabolism. But B2 is also an antioxidant because it helps you generate glutathione. You see, these two vitamins are both water soluble, and your body needs a different amount every day, depending on your activity. The thing is, your body will self-regulate how much it needs. So on any given day, if you take B2 and you're already saturated with B2, then you will just simply pee it out in your urine as a bright yellow pee. That's not harmful. That's just your body expelling the excess vitamins. And that's why people say vitamins are expensive pee. What they don't tell you is that you can't store excess vitamins. You have to take them every day. And your daily needs change every day depending on your activity. And if you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.